Hello, garden friends. Welcome back to the potting shed. Grab a cup of tea or your morning coffee and make yourself comfortable. It's a beautiful, crisp morning here. The air still has that lingering coolness, and as the sun just begins to peek over the trees, the garden is waking up. If you close your eyes, you can almost smell the rich, damp earth and hear the soft hum of the early bumblebees starting their day. I love this quiet time. It's when the garden feels entirely full of possibilities. Today, we're going to talk about something I get asked about all the time: balcony gardens. So often, we see these lavish, magazine cover planters that look impossibly expensive and wildly complicated. But I want to let you in on a little secret. You don't need a sprawling estate or an unlimited budget to create high-end botanical architecture. You just need a normal space, a few carefully chosen plants, and a little bit of know-how. We're going to build a bespoke balcony setup together. By the end of our time together today, you'll know exactly how to design, plant, and care for a container that looks like it came straight from a luxury nursery. We are going to use a classic, foolproof design formula called Thriller, Filler, and Spiller. But we're giving it a moody, elegant twist with a colour palette of deep indigo, rich burgundy, and liquid silver. It's going to be absolutely stunning, and I'm going to walk you through every single step, nice and easy. Let's start with our Thriller, the vertical star of our container. For this, we're using Salvia farinaceae, specifically the Victoria Blue variety. Imagine sturdy, square stems rising up, covered in microscopic silvery hairs. At the top, they burst into dense whorls of the most incredible velvety indigo flowers. In direct sunlight, that powdery violet transforms into a sharp, electric blue. And the best part? It sways with a stiff, resilient grace in the balcony wind. Next is our filler, the plant that provides mass and a bold block of colour. We're using a coleus, either the redhead or campfire variety. The coleus forms this dense mound of scalloped leaves. If you run your fingers over them, they feel slightly rough and papery. But the colour, oh, the colour! It's a saturated matte burgundy heavily veined with magenta. When the sun shines behind it, the leaves become translucent, glowing like stained glass against the cool blues of our salvia. Finally, our spiller. This is what cascades beautifully over the edge of our pot. We've chosen Dichondra argentea, famously known as Silver Falls. It produces hundreds of delicate, trailing stems that look like liquid mercury dripping over the rim. The tiny, kidney-shaped leaves are covered in dense silver hairs, making the whole plant look metallic and iridescent. When you touch it, it feels perfectly smooth, almost like brushed silk. It completely elevates the entire arrangement. Now that we have our beautiful trio, let's talk about their home, the container. For a balcony setup, I recommend a 16 to 20-inch planter made of resin, fiberglass, or glazed ceramic. You might be tempted by unsealed terracotta, but I gently advise against it for high-wind balconies. Terracotta breathes, which is lovely, but it accelerates water evaporation by nearly 40%. Unless you have an automated drip line, you'll be constantly battling dry, dusty soil. Let's mix our soil. We want a substrate that is light, airy, and holds just the right amount of moisture. My favourite recipe is 60% cocoa coir or sphagnum peat, 30% perlite to give the roots plenty of oxygen, and 10% worm castings for rich organic nutrients. When you mix this in a trug, take a moment to enjoy that deep, earthy scent of geosmin. It's the smell of life. Before you put the soil in the pot, be sure to pre-moisten it so it feels like a damp sponge. While we're talking about our container, let's clear up one of the most common gardening myths. We've all been told at some point to put a layer of gravel or broken pottery at the bottom of the pot to improve drainage. Please don't do this. It actually does the exact opposite. In the wonderful world of soil physics, water doesn't like to move from a fine material, like our potting soil, into a coarse material, like gravel. It creates a perched water table, causing the soil to stay soggy. Instead of gravel, just make sure your pot has at least 3 good-sized drainage holes. Fill your container evenly from bottom to top with our lovely pre-moistened soil. As you fill, I want you to leave exactly 1.5 inches of empty space between the top of the soil and the rim of the pot. This little headspace is crucial. When you water, it acts as a temporary reservoir, allowing the water to gently soak down into the roots, rather than instantly spilling over onto your shoes. Now the fun part, planting. We'll start with our thriller, the salvia, placing it right in the centre, or towards the back if your pot will sit against a wall. Dig a little hole, maybe using a hori-hori knife if you have one. Here is the most important rule. Plant it so the crown, the exact spot where the stem meets the roots, is perfectly level with your soil line. Do not bury the stem. Stems aren't meant to be underground, and burying them invites rot. Just tuck it in gently, flush and snug. Next, we'll tuck in our coleus filler. Space it exactly 5 inches away from the base of the salvia. When you take the coleus out of its nursery pot, gently tease the outer roots with your fingers. Just break up that circular shape a little bit. Plants have a sort of physical memory, and if they've been growing in a tight circle, they'll keep doing it. By roughing up the edges, we encourage those roots to reach out laterally and explore their new, spacious home in our rich potting soil. Lastly, our Silver Falls dichondra. We're going to plant these little plugs about 2 inches from the inner rim of the container, spacing them a few inches apart. Now, I'm going to share a little nursery trick with you. When you plant the dichondra, angle the root ball outward at a slight 15-degree tilt. This simple tilt tricks the plant's biology. It bypasses the plant's instinct to grow upward, encouraging it to immediately start tumbling downward over the edge in a silvery waterfall. Our beautiful container is planted. Over the first 2 weeks, it's going through what we call the establishment window. The roots are settling in. You only need to water when the top 2 inches of soil feel completely dry to the touch. Poke your finger in. If it feels cool and slightly damp, leave it be. If it feels dusty, it's time for a drink. Allowing that top layer to dry forces the roots to expand downwards, actively seeking moisture. It builds a much stronger, resilient root system. Once we hit week 3, your plants will be hungry. We already mixed a little slow-release fertilizer into the bottom of the pot, but now we'll start a gentle bi-weekly liquid feed. Dilute your fertilizer to half strength. And here's the golden rule. Apply it strictly to the root zone, right at the soil level. Try to keep it off the foliage. If mineral salts from the fertilizer sit on the leaves in direct sunlight, they can magnify the light and cause little burns. Water the soil, not leaves. Let's chat about the afternoon sun, because this is where a lot of worry happens. Imagine you walk out onto your balcony at 3 p.m. on a scorching July day, and your coleus looks completely wilted. Your first instinct is probably to grab the watering can. Don't panic and put the watering can down. This afternoon wilt is actually a brilliant defense mechanism. The plant is losing water through its leaves faster than its roots can drink, so it drops its leaves to hide them from the harsh sun rays. If you check the soil and it's still slightly damp, your plant doesn't need water. It just needs the sun to go down. By evening, it will perk right back up. Watering an already wet plant in the heat of the day can actually drown the roots. Now, balcony living comes with another challenge: wind shear. Up high, the wind can be fierce. It strips the invisible layer of humidity right off the broad leaves of our coleus. If you notice your plants struggling with wind, simply tuck them closer to the wall. I want to remind you that every garden, even the most pristine ones, experiences pests. It is entirely normal. If you notice tiny silvery streaks on your salvia petals, you might have thrips. If the new tender shoots feel sticky, aphids have probably found you. Don't feel discouraged. This isn't a failure on your part. It's just nature trying to safely share your beautiful space. A gentle spray of water from the hose or a little insecticidal soap is usually all it takes to keep them in check. You might also run into a fungal issue called botrytis blight, especially if the air gets damp and stagnant. It looks like a greyish fuzz on the lower leaves of the coleus. If you spot it, simply pinch off the affected leaves to improve airflow. Gardening is an active relationship. You observe, you adjust, and you learn. Don't stress over a damaged leaf here or there. Just step back, take a deep breath of that camphor and minty scent the salvia leaves behind on your hands, and enjoy the process. When your container is fully established, it is a sensory masterpiece. The tall, electric blue spikes of the salvia standing proudly against the wind. The stained glass glow of the burgundy coleus leaves catching the morning light. And the trailing liquid silver of the dichondra spilling smoothly over the sides. Soon, you'll hear the deep, resonant buzz of bumblebees as they visit the salvia. You'll watch them force their way into those tubular flowers, emerging dusted in golden pollen. You've created an entire functioning ecosystem on a tiny balcony, using normal, accessible plants arranged with the care and knowledge of a master botanist. I am so incredibly proud of what we've built together today. Take a moment to just sit with it, sip your tea, and watch the bees work. I'd love to hear what is growing in your garden right now, so please let me know in the comments. Subscribe if you'd like more cozy garden chats like this one. Until next time, friends, happy growing.